and welcome to the AARP Civic Debate Series, a joint production of Colorado Public Television and AARP. I'm your host, Dominic Dezzutti. Tonight, we continue our series of debates looking at the major races for Denver City Council. Tonight's debate features the candidates from Denver's District 10. Joining us for the next 30 minutes are Chris Hinds, Antonio Mendez, Wayne New, and Tony Smith. Everyone, thank you very much for joining us. We have limited time, so let's get right to it. I'm going to ask each of you to take 1 minute to answer these questions, and we'll change the order of who gets to start a question, but Chris, this first one's going to go to you. An affordable public transportation system is vital to a livable city and to the many Denver residents who depend on it. What policies would you pursue in the City Council to promote a more affordable and accessible transportation system for all city residents? Chris, your 1 minute answer.
So, as you may notice, I know a lot about accessibility, and so certainly accessibility is an important component for us to have a good transit system. I think we should put the pedestrian at the top of the transit priority list. In other words, we should fix our busted and broken sidewalks. We should make sure that we have a bike lane infrastructure, a protected bike lane infrastructure throughout the city, but in particular District 10 because it's the most urban dense district in the city. I also believe that we should be increasing our mass transit service and reducing fares. I've been on record saying that I believe the city should pay for our sidewalks. In other words, it should be something that the city administers and funds. And I've also been on record that I've talked with various city officials, and let's investigate our bus system, and let's see if we can do the Boulder model and have it free.
Antonio, same question to you, establishing and keeping affordable transportation system in Denver.
Thank you to AARP and Colorado Public Television for the opportunity to be here. I think it's unacceptable that we are at the highest public transit fare in the country at $3 a fare. I think we need to look more into reducing fares. I've heard current city council members talk about how that's really the RTD board's responsibility and not a responsibility of the current Denver City Council. I think that's a poverty of imagination. I think there's lots of real tangible ways we can influence that. I like to look at expanding where the buses go, expanding also the shelters that are available around bus stops. I would prioritize buses, quite honestly. I think there's been a dual focus between light rail and buses, and I think we've seen in the city that buses work. We just need more folks actually using them. Unfortunately, we see that 6% of commuters use the bus to go to work, where 73% of commuters drive alone in their car. That truly is unfortunate, and I'd like to make sure that we change that.
Okay. And Wayne, you're going to be up next answering the question. We should also include and tell our audience you are an incumbent, so you're running for re-election in District 10. What policies would you pursue in looking at affordable and accessible transportation in Denver?
Yeah. Well, we just reorganized the Public Works into a focused transportation department, which we've needed for quite a while. We've been talking about that for 3 years, and we finally passed policies and encouragement with Public Works to form that. So that's going to give the focus to develop a transportation system that's going to come out of Denver Right, our planning process that's just about finished. We've got to focus on all the mobilities. We've got to have policies that we handle light rail, bus rapid transit. I'm a favor of streetcar, but we've got to do bikes, walking, and we've got to have great sidewalks, like Chris mentioned. We've got to make sure that we have an efficient system. We've had other cities we've been talking to that have actually analyzed and worked with their transit system, like RTD, to talk about the efficiency of routes to make sure that people want to get from point A to point B in the least amount of time, but they won't assure that they'll get there in time. So we've got to make sure we have an efficient system for all our citizens. And we've got to find the funding. For our transportation system, we're talking about $2 to $3 to $4 billion, and so we've got to find the funding for that.
Tony, you're up last. What policies would you pursue to promote an affordable and accessible transportation system in Denver?
Number one, thanks for having us. And without question, it's a really exciting time in Denver. So many people have moved here, but now we're busting at the seams, and we need to look to our communities for further input. We've got so many plans that are just about to roll out, and I think more than ever, we have to give a voice to our community. A lot of people have already given voice to the plans that are about to roll out, but I think a lot of people don't feel like they've been listened to. So I think number one, we have to continue that process of listening to our communities, but also elevating the needs of the community, especially within District 10. You know, we have so many plans for the BRT on the north to the high intensity down on the south. Connecting north and south is going to be a key issue with dedicated bike lanes and, of course, fixing our sidewalks. And I've also said, along the lines of what Chris has said, that I can envision Denver in the future, 20, 30, 40 years in the future, where public transportation is 100% free.
Antonio, you're going to be up first on this next question. Denver is currently experiencing a shortage of affordable housing. If elected, what would you do to protect and increase the supply of affordable housing, specifically in light of the prospect of increased gentrification of some neighborhoods and along newly opened light rail lines? Antonio.
Yeah, thank you. So we know that there's money in the budget for this issue, but I think we need to prioritize it. Unfortunately, I think the current city council believes that the amount of affordable housing units that they have created, that's sufficient, that's enough. And to me, it doesn't come anywhere near close enough. So I think we need to reprioritize that in the budget alongside the mayor. I also have said this, gentrification happens when there isn't affordable housing units for the middle class. And so that's why I've long been advocating an approach where condos are prioritized. A healthy city has about a 30% condo stock. Our city currently has a 3% condo stock. So unfortunately, middle class folks don't have that first home for them to buy. In my district, our district, I could not afford one of the homes that's starting at $500,000, $600,000. A condo would give me that ability to own my first home. But if I can't find one, then I have to go to other districts and unfortunately possibly displace those folks. So I think that's how you start addressing gentrification.
Wayne, what is the key to protecting and increasing the supply of affordable housing in Denver?
Well, funding, we've been after increasing the funding for affordable housing for the last 4 years. We started with $15 million a year, we've upped it to $30 million, and we'll be leveraging that to $100 million to accelerate the funding for affordable housing, which we desperately need. But also displacement is a big issue. Last night at City Council, we debated for 3 hours in Elyria, Swansea about a neighborhood that's being affected by a development there that may produce gentrification, and definitely a concern of displacement for those residents. And Council was successful in postponing that development until there could be reached an agreement. We've got to have an understanding of what's happening to the residents in those neighborhoods and work with the developers to make sure that we don't have displacement. And the city's got to come up with some really good tools to help with gentrification and displacement. OEDs is thinking about what those tools should be. Accessory dwelling units is another opportunity that we see coming on the horizon, and we want to encourage that to try to help generate revenue so we won't face displacement.
Tony, affordable housing, how do we protect it? How do we increase it?
One of the most important things for my campaign is about preserving the character of neighborhoods. And Colfax is going to be one of those high transit corridors that we need to maintain the original history of Colfax. We only get one history. And what's great is already having worked with some of the people that are doing some of the urban planning, they've gone on record for saying, Tony, we don't need to change the zoning of Colfax. We can do all kinds of adaptive reuse programs to maintain the history of the district. But also, when we're thinking about our older adults, it's overwhelming the number of people that want to age in place. So we've got to have tax relief and programs in place so that people can age in place. And then also we have to view housing as a vaccination. And that's when you have a stable house, you have stable health. So those are key issues that I want to continue elevating with regards to planning for housing.
Chris, same question. Everyone's talking about affordable housing. How is it protected and increased in Denver?
So I actually sat on Blueprint Denver, and one of the Blueprint statistics that we talked about is that we're expecting an additional 200,000 people to move to the city of Denver by 2040. We can't do that with our existing housing stock. I've also made the commitment of taking $0 from developers, and I think that's an important component. We need to make sure that we have development that works for the city or for its people, and that's hard to do when you're being funded by developers. So I'm pro-development, to be clear, but we need to make our government and the city work for us. One of the things that we can do is properly fund the existing programs that we already have. Like, for example, we have an affordable housing stock of 1,200 units. As we know, a quarter of those have gone into the market rate stock, and it's because we didn't provide adequate resources for the monitoring and implementation of those units. So one quick fix is to make sure that we provide the proper resources for those for the programs we already have in place. So thank you.
Okay. Wayne, you're going to start on this next question. What do you believe is the greatest barrier to older adults being able to age with dignity in our community?
Yeah. I think the three biggest concerns I hear about when I talk to seniors, and being a senior, I'm just as concerned too. Yeah, the cost of living is a big issue. We've got to make sure that we're able to enjoy life and have a quality of life and be able to afford a quality of life. Healthcare is a big, big issue. We've got the concern what's going to happen with the Medicare system. We've got to make sure we protect access. We got pre-existing conditions, but also the cost of healthcare is a big, big issue. The rise in premiums and being able to afford insurance to make sure, as well as pay for Medicare, we've got to make sure we are able to afford good health care, have a sound quality of life, and have a real sense of happiness and comfort in our aging years.
Tony, same question. The barriers to aging with dignity in Denver.
So I'm really proud to serve on the Commission on Aging, and we're all about advocating and empowering our Denver's older community to live their very best lives. And as part of the commission, we have identified the top three issues are food, housing, and transportation. And something that's very important to me and our campaign is connecting people to services that are out there. And number one, contact the Commission on Aging to learn about some of these issues. But we've got to address the fact that, by 2030, 1 in 4 Denverites are going to be over the age of 60. So we've got to be allocating resources in those regards.
Chris, the barriers to aging with dignity in the city of Denver.
I would say that as I understand it, the biggest barrier is actually access. So to use Tony's statistic, 1 in 4, did you say Coloradans? But Denverites, okay. I've heard 1 in 3 Coloradans will be 65 or older by 2040. And the housing stock that we're building now, a lot of them are, like vertical areas with lots of stairs, and we're building a lot of housing that has a lot of stairs that will become more and more difficult for our senior population to climb those stairs. And also, we're granting variances to our parking minimums, but we're not providing strong alternatives to access to transportation that is something other than a car. So we're getting rid of parking, so it makes it more difficult to drive a car, but we're not giving us, as a city, we're not giving ourselves viable transit options.
Antonio, wrap it up for us. What are the barriers, or how do we address the barriers facing folks aging with dignity in our community?
Sure. The barriers that the single biggest barrier that I can point out is the cost of healthcare. Many of us are a paycheck away or a health incident away from being homeless, potentially. So I think we need to address the increasing cost of healthcare, but also the increasing cost of prescription drugs and of coverage in general. I know many in my generation don't think we'll get to see a Medicare, and I know there's concerns about what the Congress will do with Medicare and Medicaid. So I think those are the biggest issues that are really affecting seniors.
Tony, you're going to be starting this next question. I want to get into what we're seeing in a lot of headlines around Denver, which is the combination of both Initiative 100, which is on the May 7th ballot, and also the camping ban that's currently policy in Denver. Do you support Initiative 300, and what is your stance on the current Denver camping ban? Tony.
I'm 100% against Initiative 300. We can absolutely do much better for our homeless population because Initiative 300 doesn't cover services or shelter. And we definitely need those two things. The other thing that really hurts me personally is the fact that part of Initiative 300 would not allow social workers to help people that need the help. It's part of the anti-harassment part of the ballot measure.
Chris, Initiative 300, the Denver camping ban, your thoughts?
I think we should repeal the camping ban. As far as Initiative 300, if it were just the camping ban, I would be in favor of it, but it goes beyond that. But really, this is a citizen-led initiative, and the bigger story, in my opinion, is that the citizens felt obligated to bring this to the ballot. I think everyone agrees that our homeless are more numerous and have more issues than 4 years ago, and people have been, our neighbors have been asking, then begging and demanding for an alternative for our unhoused neighbors, and have had our legislature, our legislators, and mayor actually listened to the people, then we wouldn't have this very difficult choice in front of us on the May 7th ballot.
Antonio, your thoughts on 300? It's on the ballot right now, and the current Denver camping ban.
Sure. So I'm against the camping ban. I think we should repeal it. And I'm for Initiative 300. My father was homeless when he first came to this country. He spent a year homeless, living in the subway in New York City. At the same time, going to community college. Thanks to a couple of professors, he was able to rise out of that poverty. But if policies like the camping ban had been in place, that might have prevented him from doing better. That might have prevented me from achieving all that I have. I think it's incredibly patronizing to hear folks say we can do better without offering a countermeasure. City Council can definitely, once this initiative is passed, make tweaks to it and improve it. But I think without proposing a way to help the homeless, it's incredibly patronizing to hear folks say we can do better. I think we also need to start humanizing the homeless again. It's frustrating to hear folks refer to them as a problem, a nuisance, and not realize that's our fellow Denverite. That's someone in need, and that many of us are very close to being in that situation.
Wayne, your thoughts on Initiative 300 and the current camping ban in Denver?
Yeah, I oppose Initiative 300. And my heart goes out to the homeless. We've been working on solutions to homelessness for the last 3 years, and we know that housing is the biggest issue of all. If we had adequate housing, we wouldn't have to worry about the anti-camping ban. Police tell us that they actually have to get people off the street because there's no other place for them to go. We've got to improve our whole housing stock for the homeless. We've got to, instead of shelters where you just bus the homeless out for overnight, but you don't help them, we've got to end that. We've got to create treatment centers instead of shelters. We've got to provide supportive services for mental health, addiction, and job training to get people out of homeless. That's what we've got to do, and none of that is in Initiative 300. We've got no services whatsoever. All it's going to do is allow no curfews in the parks, camping in our parks, camping in the right-of-way, and a lot of things that will deteriorate the quality of life for our residents. But the main thing is not helping the homeless. We've got to do a better job, and the mayor's plan to do that, we've got to do it, and housing comes first.
Chris, you're going to be up first in this next question. What do you believe to be the greatest barrier for older adults staying in the workforce and or re-entering the workforce after age 50? And what can the city of Denver do to ensure equal access to all interested in working? Chris.
So it's difficult. So as I mentioned before, 1 in 2 seniors 65 and older have a disability, and sometimes people can be very productive in a job, but they just need a little bit of an accommodation. And I have experienced time and time again where people have said, "Oh, yeah, we would like for you to be part of our workforce, but there's nothing we can do for you." So first of all, I think there are anti-discrimination laws for age discrimination already in the state. If there isn't already in the city, I think that's something we could look at. But a lot of times the accommodations are extremely simple and are not a lot of cost, if any cost at all. But we should consider that so that we make sure that everyone has an opportunity to remain in the workforce if they want to be.
And Tony, what can the City Council do to ensure equal access to folks who want to continue to work?
Sure. So I think there's a number of policies we could pursue. First is the City of Denver employs about 11,000 people. So I think we ourselves can be the leaders in hiring senior citizens. I think we should lead by example. Second, I think we should provide maybe a tax credit or incentive to businesses who will dedicate a portion of their workforce to senior citizens. And I think we should provide low cost or no cost new skills training for senior citizens who are interested in coming back to the workforce but who may need to refresh their skills.
Wayne, same question. We're talking about folks wanting to stay in the workforce, re-entering the workforce. What can the City Council do?
I see so many retired people that are retiring too early, and what they end up doing is they going back to work looking for opportunities. They have such great experience and talent. We're not tapping into that talent. We've got to find job opportunities for them. Mentoring our youth is a big issue in our city, and being able to help other people in nonprofit organizations. So I see a lot of opportunities. I see a lot of of elderly people who are actually volunteering to help. They may not be paid, but they're contributing a lot to helping the youth and the disadvantaged in our city, for sure. I feel like we should also make sure that they have some services to help with them. You know, if there's transportation, if, like we talked about, if there's ways to reduce the cost of transportation to make sure they can get to places, whether they mentor or whether they work, we can help them. But the main thing, we want them to be an important part of our citizenry. They've done a great job and they have great experience and talent. We just need to make use of it.
Tony, putting folks, keeping folks working or getting them back to the workforce if they want to. Your thoughts?
So City Council can do a lot to support the services that are already offered within the city, especially within the commissions that have representation from each of the districts on it. On the Commission on Aging, one of the things we're working to do is ending ageism, as Chris was mentioning. Another program that we're working on is changing the narrative, and that is educating not just older adults, but everyone in the workplace about the importance of every single age that's out there. And something that I highly recommend that's actually an AARP program is the hashtag #DisruptAging on Instagram. It is true inspiration to see how people are living life abundantly 50 and over, and also learning about new opportunities like intergenerational learning for older adults and younger adults, and how important we all are in the scheme of the workplace.
Everybody, we're getting very close to our closing statements. A half hour goes by very fast around here, but we have time for a very short answer on this one. And Tony, I'm going to ask you, you get to start off. Congratulations. Hopefully this is one is easy. It's really general. What is the biggest issue out there, whether it's in District 10 or in the entire city of Denver, that people aren't talking enough about? Short answer.
Short answer, that people aren't talking about. Oof. I would say transportation. I would say the role that it needs to play. It's, to me, unfortunate that we have a better regional transportation, meaning bus that goes from Boulder to Denver or from Denver to Colorado Springs, than transportation that happens in the city itself. I think many people are content to drive in their vehicles. And I think the other big issue is the environment and pollution. I think that's something that we need to do more about. And we've seen our air quality decreasing here in Denver as a result.
Wayne, your short answer, what people aren't talking about?
Yeah, the biggest issue out here in all the District 10 neighborhoods is traffic, parking, congestion, and enforcement, a big one. We have a lot of issues where we've got people speeding, we got people running through stop signs, and we've got to do a better job of enforcing those services that people being taken advantage of what they're doing through neighborhoods. Cut through traffic through the neighborhoods is a big, big problem, and we're not getting that loudly and clearly in this kind of discussion.
Tony, what people aren't talking about?
When I'm knocking doors, one of the number one things I hear about is neighborhood character preservation. With all the awesome development going on, we're seeing too many old buildings go away and not being kept, and there's so many opportunities to keep those. There's conservation overlays, there's historic designations and those kinds of things, but people do not want their neighborhoods scraped and replaced with brand new buildings. And I grew up on Air Force bases playing in the street, and people want to see their kids playing on the street still.
Chris, what aren't people talking about?
So people are talking a lot about housing, they're talking a lot about transportation. What they're not talking about is how the lack of housing and transportation has an effect on community. If we have busted and broken sidewalks, two people can't walk side by side down the sidewalk holding hands, then that hurts our ability to form bonds as neighbors, to create relationships and break bread with the person next to us. And that community is really hurting us in the city of Denver. As they say on the web building, what is a city but the people? We need that community here in Denver.
Well, I alluded to it before. It's time for our closing statements. We're asking each of our candidates to give 30 seconds in a closing statement. We picked out the order from numbers out of a hat earlier before the debate. Chris, you picked number one. You're up first for your 30-second closing statement.
My name is Chris Hinds, and I'm a candidate for Denver City Council's District 10. I grew up in rural Texas, the only child of a single mom. Dad never graduated high school. Mom cleaned houses growing up. And I was the first in my family to go to college. I went to SMU, got an undergrad in computer science and an MBA in finance. And this background with the education and experience that I have, I believe will make me a strong leader for Denver City Council, and I would love to earn your support.
Thank you, Chris. Wayne, you're up next for your 30-second closing statement.
Thank you. I'm the senior with the most true life experience in business and public service. I've been proven and tested. I've been thanked every day for things that we do, my staff, as we handle the quality of life issues. I have a strong work ethic, which is so important to doing this job right. I've been supporting others, especially seniors, and making sure that they enjoy their life and live well as they age. I work hard, I play fair, and I do a good job. And I want to make sure that I can provide services and continue in office to provide services that I've been providing over the last 4 years. Thank you.
Tony, you're up next for your 30-second closing statement.
Thank you. My name is Tony Smith, and I put neighbors first and I build coalitions. For the last 18 years, I've been a community organizer for boards of directors, city commissions, and the Cherry Creek Arts Festival, under the art of bringing people together, being proactive, and getting things done. I will represent all of Denver's diversity because we all need to feel represented and have a connection to local government. I'll champion affordable housing, neighborhoods, and well-being. And I look forward to meeting you. I hope to earn your vote. And I love this city. Thank you.
Thank you, Tony. Antonio, you are up for your 30-second closing statement.
Sure. My name is Antonio Mendez, and I'm a candidate for City Council District 10. So I like to say that God made me a New Yorker, but opportunity made me a Coloradan. I graduated from Colby College with a BA in government, and I graduated from the University of Denver with a law degree. I've been the Deputy Chief of Staff to Lieutenant Governor Donald Lynn and Lieutenant Governor Joe Garcia. But the most important credential that I'm proudest of is I'm a neighbor. I live in Cap Hill with my wife, Kaylin, and we're looking at the next 20 years of the city of Denver and wanting to build a Denver that's equitable for all and one that we all do better.
Thank you very much. I want to thank all of our candidates joined us here for this look at the Denver City Council race in District 10. That, of course, includes Chris Hinds, Antonio Mendez, Wayne New, and Tony Smith. Be sure to stay tuned for our next debate featuring candidates running for the at-large seats in the council. And tune in next Friday night at 9 o'clock as we take a look at the candidates running for the mayor of Denver. For everyone here at Colorado Public Television and AARP, I'm Dominic Dezzutti. Thank you very much for watching. Good night.